Punch delivered one of the greatest swan songs to a generation with their second PlayStation 4 game, 2020's Ghost of Tsushima. And thanks to the porting professionals in Nixxes, we have a new and improved PC port to relive the adventure all over again. So let's cut to the chase and ride. As has become the norm now, Nixxes excel with a clean, detailed and simple menu system. You can swap to the game at any time and change each setting in real time to see the visual impact each menu choice has. The choice is good but not exhaustive, as we have seen with the Insomniac ports. On the display side, we get 16:9 up to the ultra wide aspect ratio, which does work exceptionally well here due to the gorgeous Tsushima pampas grass, billowing bamboo and miles of terrain vistas. This includes the Ikki DLC, which is also equally as beautiful. We get all three big anti-aliasing and upscaling options from Nvidia, Intel and AMD, plus DLAA super sampling and DLSS 3 frame generation alongside FSR 3 frame gen. Impressively, Nixxes have been the very first shipped game to take advantage of the decoupling AMD did with FSR 3 frame reconstruction and interpolation. It allows you to use DLSS for upscaling but still use DLSS 3 if you have a 4000 card, or FSR 3 if you have an AMD or Intel, or even an older card such as my RTX 2070. Now into configuration, we have some key options that impact performance. The single biggest is resolution due to the wealth of moving objects, minute details, grass, foliage. But within the graphical settings, shadows, level of detail and volumetrics are the biggest, specifically past the sweet spot of high settings, which bar a tweaked level of detail setting is what the PS5 runs all settings at. Going from high shadows to very high has a 13% cost, and then a further 29% to ultra. These are better, but during play you will never notice the hit to image quality over the huge cost of frame time. Volumetrics scale a massive 58%, going from very high to ultra, so the high setting saves you almost 70% over the ultra setting in the worst case scenarios, as you can see here. Now beyond this, level of detail can offer 10% going from high to very high, which across all the settings makes high to very high 61% less performant, whereas going from high to medium offers a welcome but smaller 20%. Low or very low impacts the team's art and visual aims and simply is not worth it in my opinion. Upscaling is vital here, with every platform benefiting from it. Using my aging RTX 2070 at 4K native TAA at the high settings in a particularly taxing shot with foliage, depth of field, long draw and volumetrics, we can more than double our performance with a small impact to the depth of field processing in the background, leaping from 25 FPS to 54, a huge reduction in frame times from 40 milliseconds to 18.5. Something very vital if we want to lean into frame generation technology. Using this same machine, we can take an equally taxing outdoor shot at the same settings, and it adds 33% to our performance from 54 FPS to 72. Now, as noted in our Hellblade 2 and other videos, this can come at the cost of input latency. So ensure for all Nvidia cards you enable Reflex Boost Plus to reduce this cost as much as possible. Here on my RTX 2070 it works perfectly, which is a minor increase to the game's input latency, a small 16 millisecond increase approximately. Now, due to this enabling FSR 3 and DLSS in partnership, we can use this choice for all cards or swap to DLSS 3 frame gen on the latest 4000 cards, greatly enhancing the PC market's quality. Now, due to the clean art design, bright colours, efficient and sharp textures, the game still looks superb at 4K DLSS, FSR 3 or XESS performance levels, which is 1920 by 1080p base resolution. The PS5 port was not a huge update over the BC mode, as we covered back then on both. really adding a full checkerboard 4K over the previous 1800p checkerboard of the Pro and backwards compatibility modes. Now the gameplay runs at 60 FPS, unlike the backwards compatibility mode though, cutscenes now run at 30, whereas before they ran at 60. Now this is possibly related to the lip sync, the artistic choice, or possibly dips underneath. This is the biggest boost on PC, with frame rates exceeding 120 FPS if you have the rig to do it. The opening scene is very demanding when at high resolutions. Now the dips here and elsewhere in the title point to high memory demands, and as discussed in my Spider-Man and other PC port reviews, the architecture of the PS5 is the focus of all these games. As such, without huge rewrites on a game-by-game basis, Nixxes have leveraged the PCIe bandwidth as much as possible, meaning we can become bandwidth bound at times, with this being another title that benefits from PCIe 4X over 3X and lower. As the game has an efficient geometry culling approach with the camera view or frustum, this can mean just spinning the camera around can affect frame times. Forcing my RTX 2070 down to 8x under the 16x base, we can see both dip when moving, but the lower the bandwidth has a much bigger impact on frame times. Just as I covered last year in Forspoken PC versus PS5, and it is a result of the console focused design. Although this is a PS4 game by design, the single pool of memory means the engine is constantly evicting and creating data within RAM as you move, to ensure maximum occupancy versus efficiency. Now this raises the cost on the PC without having far larger VRAM pools to satisfy the just-in-case scenarios based on frame-to-frame demands. As such, if you have a 10GB GPU or lower, my constant recommendation remains in that textures and other VRAM elements such as volumetrics and terrain be reduced to high or medium to ensure you do not cause excessive page swapping between system RAM and VRAM during play, which can manifest as micro or macro stutter as you ride through the world, reducing the gorgeous views as you explore the isle. Due to the checkerboard resolve on PS5, the image on PC is vastly superior, with less blocky textures on grounds, garments, and the katana suka. The biggest cost though is the alpha effects, such as the huge amounts of leaves, grass, which can flicker alongside the SMAA T2X-AA the game uses, which was a revelation in Second Son at the PS4's launch, but really shows its limits now. What we see on PC is a more stable and less ghosted image, pun intended, even at DLSS performance levels, with only depth of field causing excessive flicker on DLSS and XeSS over PS5 and even PC using FSR3, but this is mostly affecting the real-time cutscenes. Now aside from this, the updates over PS5 are minimal on the image quality stakes, with all formats looking incredible. Even the Steam Deck in handheld guise looks like the PS5 portable we never got, but always wanted. With 4 PC configurations covered, I have created my own settings table for you all to enjoy. Minimum is the Steam Deck, recommended is the MSi RTX4050 Laptop, high is the RTX 2070 machine, and best is the RTX 4090 rig. Now these can be scaled as needed across your personal setup, and it covers the same range as the Nixxes advised very low through very high ahead of launch. One interesting area on PC is the recommended specs. As a PS4 game at heart, the demand seemed odd on some. Taking the minimum, our Steam Deck is a perfect fit and beats the memory, CPU and GPU demands, and with DRS or upscaling options we can easily beat those settings, although 60 FPS is not possible on this machine as a locked or average rate anyway, no matter how low you go. Thus, we target a decent 30 FPS rate using a mix of low to medium and high settings. We can achieve a decent rate on that level. Using 800 or 900p target on a large screen with FSR3, we can maintain good 33 millisecond rates. With the noted opening and some other sections aside, it feels smooth and looks great to play in handheld form. So much so that I played a good 10 hours or more on this very device on the train over the past week whilst travelling, and journeys have never been so short. It achieves a close quality and performance level of the PS4 original and loses none of the high quality, engaging combat and gorgeous world to explore, but do expect some dips here and there. Moving up on my entry-level RTX4050 MSi gaming laptop, we can notch up the settings to a closer level with the PS5 at a DLSS quality 1440p output, and now we can hit that 60 FPS target very well, even beating the native PS5 port in those real-time cutscenes. That said, the PC still uses a mix of video and real-time sections to aid loading, which you can notice from time to time, such as the grand introduction across the pampas grass. And aside the same heavy sections, such as the opening battle, which can be more VRAM limited here on this particular machine, which even with frame generation on, cannot save and even reduce performance more during these sections. The option remains to play with or without this at a stable 60 FPS-ish level, or engage DLSS or FSR3 frame generation and maintain a sharp and smooth image. With this machine and my older RTX 2070 is where frame generation solutions can aid the performance targets immensely. Using my older RTX 2070, we're not able to achieve a locked 60 FPS, even at that DLSS performance and same high settings of PlayStation 5. It's often closer to the high 40s, but at my optimized settings for this machine, we hover close to the RTX 4050, both in image quality and performance, and expect some mild stutter and dips, but in general, it still looks and runs very good indeed, and gets close enough to the PS5 experience to never miss a great deal. The biggest of the lot in the RTX 4090 at 4K DLAA with everything maxed out at 70 to 80 FPS plus, and it looks sharp, smooth and even more impressive. Now, aside those same dips noted, it can run very well with the PCIe 4X port not causing major hiccups, and the game uses the standard Nixxes async shader compilation pass per start and load, so you will never notice a DirectX stutter during play on this or any other machine. Now, due to the base assets of the game though, running the game at 4K DLSS quality can unlock even smoother and faster gameplay for 144 FPS upwards and higher screens, which helps improve the excellent combat the game is known for, and for me at least, largely adored for. The final piece is the sound. Just like the PS5, it is a rich and organic mix throughout, using 3D audio for battle cries, wind howling, flaming arrows, and that super and evocative soundtrack. On PC, nothing is lost in translation, and you can hook it up to any setup, including headphones, and it greatly enhances the experience. I also love the Kurosawa mode, which reminds me of being a kid watching these films back in the 80s, complete with the black and white filter and firmware pass and the muted mono speaker. The Japanese dialogue is the true way to play, and it even supports the lip sync to English or Japanese as per the PS5 version, which adds so much more to the gameplay's look, feel and ambience, and it's the only way I play it. It's not for everyone, I am sure, but for hardcore fans such as me and many of you, the choices offered add a great deal to the game. Ghost of Tsushima is stunningly elegant, simple, dramatic, and as bold now as on its 2020 debut. From a pure PC pushing benchmark, it is not something that will be shouted from the rooftops, without much fancy modern technobabble tick boxes to shout about on the advert. But what this PC port does, something Nixxes have continued to evolve and improve on, is polish, enhance and tailor the game to the wide and complicated PC market with a stable, efficient and polished presentation that offers tangible boosts over the console's best. Image quality, widescreen, unlocked frame rates are the big ticket items, allowing the incredible art and lighting teams to stand out that little bit more. A game made by a passionate team, ported by an equally passionate studio to scale from the RTX 4090 down to the 15-watt Steam Deck and still retain every pixel of passion each of them put in, really says it all. Stunning. And that draws this tale to a close of Pixel's performance and all things samurai related. I'm off to ride off into the sunset, and maybe I'll see you in those mountains beyond.
おい、随分とのろまだな。それは違う。この場で見極めておる。